of course, Carol Ann was fantastic in Poltergeist. And remember Poltergeist? Poltergeist was absolutely about haunting geographies, about a Native American cemetery which hadn't been dealt with properly, that then developers built on, and the ghosts came out. And they used a young, temporally innocent Carol Ann. She's the only one up at 2 in the morning. Everyone else is fast asleep. The older brother, who I think must have learned how to tell the time, mum and dad, who work. Sorry, it's getting excited, isn't it? It's hard to talk over excited. Everyone else is asleep, because that's what we do. The most disruptive, if you've got kids, the most disruptive part of them personally was getting up at flipping 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. It's exhausting, but that's because I think we move into these spaces, modern spaces, where we understand the day and we understand place and time according to certain frameworks. So ghosts become quite a useful metaphor, I think. And of course, the Carol Ann touching the screen was useful, and excuse the awful conceit here. But
so how does the iPhone
this is what we do now. To some extent, again, very naive, but we are all a Carol Ann. As soon as you get these devices, the first thing you do is navigate the screen. You touch that screen, and they suddenly start telling stories and taking you to different places and times and different networks. So the ghost remains a very useful metaphor, I think, to talk about ubiquity, than it does adopt some of the multinational, multi-corporate narratives. We were quite interested in these devices then, because these devices become relatively popular. I think it's a relative term, because everyone thinks that 70% of all phones sold now are smartphones, but actually it doesn't mean to say people use them all their capacity. We've found that with the projects I'll show you later, that 70% of you might have a smartphone, but you might use it as though it was a traditional landline phone. You just use it for phone calls. So it's very hard to navigate the consumption markets, and it's also very careful to not get caught up in, again, the rhetoric that says, wow, everyone's connected, because we're simply not connected. However, we, just like the hacks then that we wanted to hack with the museum, we wanted to hack some of the city, and this assumption that Google would offer us a real time. So what we did in Edinburgh was we worked with the National Library of Scotland, and this will be another cheesy advert, but our own really, where we began to, the National Library of Scotland are terrific. They offer free maps, a lot of Scottish maps out, and a lot of Edinburgh. They just offer it as a free service, so they geo-reference many of them, and you can just download them. For some reason, they just hadn't put them into a smartphone device. So we came along with an iPhone developer and said, look, why don't we just throw them over the Google map then? And really open up this critique that Google Maps aren't the present, they're just another idea of the past. So this is Edinburgh College of Art. This is the cheesy advert really, but it was a cattle market 120 years ago. So using the application, which is walking through time, we then built a very, very simple interface. And all that happens is, this is the app. It's simple. We've got about, we've only got a handful of maps in now, but the new release has about 20 with Perth and Glasgow and Dundee as well. And they simply have rubber matted, if you like, they've geo-referenced some of the old maps. So you can go back to 1700s, and when the blue dot falls, you literally fall into that map. And I will toggle, if you like, the JPEGs from the past to the Google Map JPEGs of supposedly the present. But if, the present isn't the present anymore, it's collapsed. And people were found it very, very popular. This is me moving to the same space. And again, what's astonishing is the accuracy of some of the old maps, but also the interest that people have in navigating streets which don't exist. But we had 10,000 downloads in the festival, and people just genuinely like to stand on rail tracks that don't exist anymore. It's the thing I do with my kid. We go and stand on old rail tracks. Mum says, no, don't do it, but we kind of like doing it. And the rail tracks are now shopping malls, or they're markets, but we like going to visit these kind of old archaeological ideas and then try and situate imagery. But it's in that glitch that we think there's something going on, because it's not the assumption, and I don't think Google can sustain this assumption that the base map is consensual. And it was quite fun. What's nice is now I can go swimming in the North Loch, which is where Princess Street Gardens is. So you can really begin to afford our imaginations to fill in some of these spaces.